Libra, my balanced soul. There's someone in your life, likely a woman, who is not what she appears to be. And whether you've realized it or not, her presence is quietly tilting your internal scale. This video isn't just a reading. It's a wake-up call. Because while you've been trying to keep the peace, she's been quietly disrupting your emotional clarity, your intuition, and your divine rhythm. You are the keeper of harmony, the voice of balance in chaos. But lately, haven't you felt off? As if you're spending too much energy smoothing over problems that aren't yours? As if someone keeps pulling your energy without asking, leaving you a little more uncertain each time? That's not random. That's not your imagination. That's the signal your soul sent to the universe, and this video, right here, is your answer. Welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. This sacred space was created for moments just like this, when your spirit feels something that your mind hasn't quite named yet. And now, the truth is ready to reveal itself. She's not just draining your energy. She's reshaping how you see yourself. She's using flattery to pull you closer, then subtle criticism to keep you unsure. She arrives in moments when you feel strong and centered, only to leave you emotionally foggy, confused, or strangely guilty. You've been giving her the benefit of the doubt. You've been telling yourself, maybe she just needs help, or I can handle it. But let's be honest. Every time you interact with her, you feel a little more unbalanced. And you're tired. Not just physically but energetically. It's time to call that out. Not with hate. Not with drama. But with truth. Because no one, no matter how broken or sweet or helpless they may seem, has the right to manipulate your emotional balance or spiritual light. And Libra, you don't need to shrink yourself to make someone else feel safe. You don't need to carry emotional weight that was never yours to begin with. Now let me take a moment to thank you truly for being here. Every like, every comment, every subscription you share with this space helps amplify messages like this to others who are also seeking clarity and healing. Your presence here matters. Your journey matters. And I am deeply honored to walk beside you today. So, before we go deeper, tell me in the comments. What angel number has been following you lately? Or simply comment a number that feels sacred to you right now, because that number might just unlock something greater in the message to come. Stay with me, because what the universe is about to uncover might not only change how you see her. It might change how you protect your own light forever. Let's begin. Imagine for a moment that you are a scale, delicate, precise, created not just to measure but to harmonize. As a Libra, this is your sacred blueprint, to bring grace where there is chaos, to hold stillness where others tremble. But what happens when someone, quietly and consistently, places weight on only one side of your spirit? Not loudly, not obviously, but just enough until you're constantly leaning, constantly adjusting, trying to restore a balance that keeps slipping further from reach. This, dear Libra, is what it feels like when someone begins to invade your energetic space in silence. They don't announce their intention. They don't storm in. They blend in. They appear right after you've found your footing, drawn to the stillness you've worked so hard to regain, and then they shift the atmosphere, just enough to leave you second-guessing yourself. From an astrological lens, Libra is an air sign, thoughtful, relational, and always scanning for equilibrium. You're ruled by Venus, which means your natural setting is one of beauty, connection, and emotional refinement. But this very nature makes you vulnerable to distortion when someone else's chaotic energy enters your field without permission. You're so oriented toward keeping peace that you often overlook subtle forms of manipulation, especially when they're dressed in softness. This woman, the one whose energy you've been picking up on but haven't yet fully named, is likely not overtly hostile. In fact, she might present herself as someone in need, emotionally wounded, fragile, or lost. She may even seem like someone worth protecting. And because of your compassionate heart, you step forward, quietly offering your balance as a gift. But what she's doing in return is not reciprocal. It's energetic extraction disguised as friendship, concern, or connection. She shows up when you feel light, when you feel full, when you're finally starting to move with clarity, and she subtly steers the conversation toward her drama, her sadness, her emergencies. You don't even realize it at first. You just feel more tired afterward. A bit foggy. A bit unsure of the decisions you were so clear about yesterday. This isn't just emotional fatigue. It's spiritual interference. And it's happening because someone has identified your light and is using their nearness to bend it. Perhaps she says things that sound like kindness but leave you doubting yourself. Things like, "You've changed," or "I miss the old you." These aren't reflections, they're tools. Designed not to build clarity, but to cause confusion. Yet here's what I want you to remember: your intuition is not gone, it's only muffled. Libra has an inner compass that is profoundly accurate when quiet is allowed to speak. That slight ache in your chest after a conversation? That tension behind your eyes when she hugs you a little too long? Those aren't overreactions. Those are internal signals from your energy field, gently reminding you, this connection is not aligned. The truth is, you were never meant to hold someone else's instability in order to prove your loyalty. Your soul is not a cushion for chaos. You don't have to rescue someone who refuses to rise. And no, choosing to step away from someone who brings more confusion than peace is not unkind, it's wise. It's protective. It's the sacred act of returning the scale to its center. And as the scriptures teach, not by command but by quiet wisdom, your heart is a temple, and not everyone is meant to enter. You are allowed to say, this space is not available for that kind of energy anymore. You are allowed to be discerning. You are allowed to guard your peace. And in doing so, Libra, you don't lose your balance, you reclaim it. Sometimes what appears to be love isn't love at all, it's dependency wearing a beautiful disguise. And when it comes to Libra, the danger often lies not in dramatic betrayal, but in quiet compromise. You're ruled by Venus, the planet of harmony, devotion, and connection, and this makes you one of the most naturally loving and giving signs of the Zodiac. You're not just seeking love. You're seeking balance through love, the kind of connection where hearts mirror each other in truth. But when the mirror reflects distortion, and you still keep reaching toward it, that's when your inner scale begins to collapse. If this woman you're dealing with has stepped into your romantic field, the situation becomes even more delicate. There's a very real possibility that what she's offering isn't intimacy, but influence. Not partnership, but quiet control. And because her tactics are subtle, wrapped in sweet tones, tender glances, or the illusion of vulnerability, it can take a long time to realize that the warmth you're feeling isn't healing you, it's keeping you stuck. In tarot, The Queen of Cups reversed shows a person who uses emotional sensitivity to manipulate rather than connect. Her empathy is selective, often self-serving. Combine that with the Devil, and you're looking at a bond that keeps you attached not through love, but through guilt, fear of loss, or emotional obligation. This is the kind of relationship that whispers, "You owe me," even when your soul is crying, "This isn't right." Libra, because your heart is so finely tuned to emotional nuance, you're also more susceptible to emotional distortion, especially when someone uses your compassion against you. She may act jealous when you succeed, not out of love, but because your growth threatens her sense of control. She may make subtle comments about how you've changed, not to encourage reflection, but to plant seeds of self-doubt. She might withdraw her affection or approval when you express a need for space, leaving you feeling selfish for simply honoring your boundaries. But here's the truth: healthy love does not punish independence. It celebrates it. Healthy love wants to see you rise, not shrink. It supports your need for solitude, your success, your voice. If someone constantly makes you feel like you're too much or not enough depending on how useful you are to them, that's not love, that's emotional conditioning. From an energetic perspective, the law of attraction reminds us, like attracts like. When you begin raising your vibration through self-awareness, self-care, through honoring your peace, the people who aren't aligned with that frequency will either rise with you or resist you. And in many cases, resistance doesn't look like open conflict. It looks like emotional guilt tripping. It looks like someone pulling you back into their chaos just when you've started finding your clarity. So I want to ask you this: have you ever felt the need to shrink, to downplay your light, or to walk on eggshells just so someone else wouldn't feel threatened by your wholeness? If so, know this: love that requires you to betray your essence isn't love. It's a leash disguised as devotion. You are not here to be emotionally domesticated. You are not here to soothe someone else's fears by becoming less of yourself. If someone's connection to you is conditional on your compliance, that's not partnership. That's energetic theft. Remember, there is a deep difference between compromise and sacrifice. Compromise builds bridges. Sacrifice burns pieces of yourself to keep someone else warm. And as ancient wisdom gently reminds us, your heart is a sacred place. It should be guarded with courage, not guilt. You are allowed to close the door on relationships that don't return your energy. You are allowed to choose peace over proving. So tell me, Libra, have you ever given away your balance in exchange for love? If so, you are not alone. Share your story in the comments, if you feel called to. Because your voice might help another Libra recognize the cost of love that comes with invisible chains. Not every yes brings peace, Libra, especially when it comes from fear instead of alignment. In the sacred journey of restoring your energetic balance, learning how to protect your light isn't an act of separation, it's an act of truth. Your nature is beautifully wired for harmony, for bringing opposites into union, for reading the subtle language of relationships. But when you begin to sense that your energy is being pulled in directions that don't feel honest, you must return to your own center. This part of your path is not about confrontation. It's about clarity. In numerology, the number 222 has likely been appearing for many of you. It's more than a sign of peace, it's a divine nudge to realign with your inner truth. It asks you, are you building your life on solid ground, or on silent sacrifice? When this number shows up repeatedly, it often signals that balance is being negotiated and not always in your favor. Let's begin with the very first step: boundaries. Not the kind you draw with walls or anger, but the quiet, firm kind that come from self-respect. Saying no doesn't make you unkind. It makes you clear. You're not responsible for explaining your energy to everyone who asks for it. A boundary, when placed with love, is a bridge back to yourself. Next, try giving space not to punish anyone, but to feel the difference in your own emotional climate. 2 weeks of limited contact is often enough to reveal what your mind has been avoiding. If peace increases when presence decreases, your nervous system is showing you the truth. And the truth doesn't lie. Pay attention, too, to how the other person responds when you stop overgiving. Does she respect your space, or does she push harder to stay connected? Does she guilt you, manipulate your emotions, or try to reframe the story so you feel like the villain? The way someone reacts to your no often reveals why your yes was expected in the first place. You also don't owe your private world to anyone. Emotional intimacy requires trust, and trust must be earned. If you've been offering your fears, hopes, dreams, or past to someone who uses them to influence you, it's time to reclaim your narrative. Keep your conversations sacred, selective, and surface level until your spirit feels safe again. To truly return to balance, begin each day with a ritual that replenishes you. Maybe that means silence, journaling, a walk in the early sun, or painting without purpose. Your spirit isn't asking for grand changes, it's asking for consistent honoring. And the more you pour into your own light, the less room there will be for energy that drains. Surround yourself with people who don't demand a performance to stay in your life. The ones who love you without requiring you to bend, overcompensate, or explain your intuition. These are your mirrors. These are your anchors. They won't make you feel selfish for needing space, they'll celebrate you for choosing your sanity. And finally, let's talk about subtle reinforcement. Tarot reminds us through the High Priestess that truth lives in silence before it rises into words. Trust the space between words, the energy behind actions, the wisdom within your gut. You don't need anyone's confirmation to honor what you already feel. Let calming colors support your frequency this week. Pastel blue and silver are especially helpful now. They carry an energy of soothing, soft clarity, and spiritual protection. Wear them, meditate with them, or simply keep them close as a reminder of your realignment. If you've ever said yes to keep the peace while your inner voice screamed no, you're not alone. That's not weakness, that's conditioning. And it can be unlearned. So, Libra, take a breath. Recenter. Reclaim. You don't owe your light to anyone who cannot hold it with reverence. And if any of this resonated with you, feel free to comment and share your own moment of choosing truth over approval. What did it teach you about yourself? What changed when you finally honored your own timing, your own intuition? This is your moment. Choose you. When wind is misunderstood, it's seen as something that simply reacts, blown around, scattered, controlled by forces stronger than itself. But Libra, you are not meant to be carried by every gust of emotion or expectation. You are the kind of wind that chooses where to go, the kind that cools, that clears, that guides. And part of your transformation now is remembering that you were never meant to be the one pulled along. You were born to hold the air with purpose. This part of your journey, the part where you shift from being emotionally pulled to becoming energetically anchored, isn't about rebellion. It's about return. The truth is, many times we get drawn into unbalanced relationships not because we're weak, but because we're looking for something we've been taught to seek outside of ourselves. Validation. Safety. Permission to exist fully. And when someone mirrors our old wounds or offers temporary relief from our inner uncertainty, it can feel like love. But it's not. It's attachment dressed as healing. And healing never asks you to shrink to be chosen. What's happening now is that the moon is entering Scorpio, the sign that strips illusions and reveals what's buried. It's no coincidence you're being asked to face this now. You're being called to shift your attention from pleasing others to pleasing truth. You no longer have to mold yourself around other people's chaos. You get to choose to rise above it. One way to begin this internal shift is through gentle, grounded practice. Write. Not for clarity, but for honesty. Let your journal hold the stories you were afraid to admit, the moments you felt silenced, manipulated, or unseen. Don't judge the version of you that tolerated it. Just acknowledge it. She was learning. And now, you're ready to rewrite the script. Try speaking to yourself not in harsh discipline, but in mirror devotion. Stand in front of the mirror and say 3 things you're proud of. Not for anyone else. Just for you. Maybe it's the way you show up, or how deeply you feel, or that you're still choosing growth even when it hurts. This is how you reestablish self-recognition. And it's that recognition that breaks cycles of seeking it elsewhere. Visualization is another subtle but powerful shift. Picture yourself not defensive, not angry, but poised. Your spine tall. Your face calm. You've just said no with a smile. The person in front of you looks surprised, maybe disappointed. But you? You feel lighter. More in control. Because you didn't abandon yourself this time. That's the new you. Not reactive, but rooted. Angel number 505 has been appearing for many Libras right now, a divine signal that transformation is close. And not just change for the sake of it, but a specific kind of change, the kind that restores your inner freedom. The number 5 is freedom, the number 0 is divine guidance. Together, they speak. You are being supported to break free from what no longer matches your soul's evolution. Let this be the week you stop negotiating with patterns that never nourished you. There's a quiet commandment we've often ignored, the one that reminds us to love our neighbor as ourselves, not instead of ourselves. When you begin to value your own well-being with the same reverence you offer others, the right people stay, and the wrong ones simply fall away. You are not meant to survive by adjusting to imbalance. You are meant to thrive by becoming the one who steadies the wind, not by force, but by becoming unshakable within. So if you've ever felt like you're constantly bending to keep others comfortable, let this be the moment you remember, your balance matters, too. Sometimes the simplest question reveals the deepest truth. Imagine, just for a moment, that this woman, the one who's been quietly pulling at your balance, simply disappears from your life tomorrow morning. No goodbye, no confrontation, just gone. What's the first feeling that rises in your body? If it's relief, if your chest loosens and your thoughts suddenly feel lighter, then you already have your answer. If it's sorrow, hesitation, or guilt, then it's time to look more closely. Are you mourning the person, or are you attached to the pattern? Is it real love or the familiarity of being needed? This is where your power lives, Libra, in the space between reaction and recognition. You are not here to be anyone's emotional charging station. You are not the quiet background music to someone else's drama. Your energy, your peace, your beautiful sense of internal symmetry is not just a trait, it's a responsibility. And not everyone should be allowed to walk freely through that sacred field. We sometimes forget that protecting your energy is an act of service to the world. Because when you are whole, when you are rested and respected, the version of you that shows up in your relationships is radiant and real. But when you are constantly drained, emotionally monitored, or quietly controlled, the version of you that survives is just a shadow of who you came here to be. Choosing who gets access to you is not selfish, it's spiritual stewardship. What makes this tricky for you, Libra, is that your soul naturally leans toward grace, empathy, and inclusion. You want to believe in people's goodness, in their potential. But potential is not a reason to stay. And good intentions do not excuse bad patterns. You can hold compassion in one hand and boundaries in the other. You can release someone with love and still protect yourself with firmness. Energetically, we are always either allowing or denying. There is no in-between. So the question becomes, are you allowing someone into your field because you truly feel expansive in their presence, or because you've grown used to the weight? When you start to examine that difference, a quiet clarity begins to rise. And in that clarity, you no longer fear losing people, you begin to fear losing yourself. This week carries the vibration of reset. The number 505 has been repeating for many of you, signaling freedom from cycles that kept you emotionally confined. The universe isn't asking you to abandon your kindness. It's inviting you to direct it inward first, to treat yourself as the one most deserving of your loyalty. When you start from that place, something magical happens. Your intuition sharpens. Your nervous system softens. And the people who aren't meant to walk with you anymore simply fall away, not because you pushed them but because your frequency no longer calls them in. That's not loss. That's alignment. So today, I want to offer you one final moment of reflection. Who truly deserves to remain inside your energetic circle? Not based on history. Not based on guilt. But based on how they make you feel now. When you're with them, do you feel seen? Safe? Supported? Or do you feel like you're constantly adjusting yourself to be enough? Let that be the compass. Not the promises they've made. Not the time you've invested. But the energy they bring into your space and the version of you that rises or fades when they enter. If this message speaks to your soul, I invite you to comment with the angel number that's been circling your awareness. Or simply choose a number that feels sacred to you today. And if you've recognized a pattern of emotional manipulation dressed as love, you're not alone, and your story might just help someone else see clearly, too. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to choose yourself. And you are allowed to start again. Libra, if you've made it here still with me at this final moment, I want you to pause, take a breath, and let this truth settle softly within you. You were never meant to keep everything balanced for everyone else at the cost of losing yourself. The harmony you seek is not about pleasing others or avoiding disruption. It's about being honest with your own soul. You are the scale, not the burden placed upon it. And no one, no matter how close, how sweet, or how broken they may seem, has the right to tilt your inner world without your consent. I know you've spent so much of your life trying to be the peacemaker. The one who smooths things over, who says, yes, even when your body whispers, no, who forgives before apologies are offered. But what if true balance, your kind of sacred, Libra balance, isn't found in bending further? What if it's found in choosing yourself with grace? In saying, this isn't for me, without needing anyone's permission to walk away? You are not here to carry the emotional weight of others simply because you know how. You are not responsible for healing someone who refuses to heal themselves. The divine gift of your empathy was never meant to be used against you. And even kindness must have boundaries, or it becomes a doorway for manipulation dressed as connection. So now the question becomes, are you ready to stop negotiating your light for temporary peace? Are you ready to believe that you don't need to earn your place in someone's life by being smaller, quieter, more convenient? You've learned a lot throughout this journey. You've faced the illusion. You've seen how charm can hide control, how closeness can be a mask for dependency, how care can become a cage. And most importantly, you've remembered something ancient that your intuition never left you. It was just waiting for you to choose it over comfort. Now it's your turn to decide. Who will you allow into your energy field from this point forward? What version of yourself will you protect? Will you continue dimming your inner compass to keep the peace, or will you let it lead you into your next chapter, no matter who doesn't follow? Let me ask you this, softly but directly. If choosing yourself means disappointing someone else, are you willing to live with their discomfort so you can finally feel whole? Because peace isn't passive, Libra. Sometimes peace requires boldness. Quiet boundaries. Gentle exits. Firm silence. Sometimes peace is the decision not to explain anymore. And when you make that decision from a place of truth, something extraordinary happens. Your world realigns not with what you fear to lose, but with everything your soul was waiting to gain. Thank you for being here with me, for giving yourself this space to reflect, heal, and remember who you are. I see your heart. I honor your journey. And I trust that everything you've felt in this reading is exactly what your higher self was ready to receive. If this message resonated with you, let me know in the comments by typing the words, I choose peace. Your words hold power, and when you declare your truth, you create ripple effects for others who need that same courage. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Every like, every share, every comment helps us grow this space of healing and alignment. Your presence here matters more than you know. You are not alone, and you never were. So Libra, take what you've learned today. Let it settle like a soft breeze through your spirit. And remember, true balance does not come from saying yes to everything. It comes from saying yes to yourself.